have to show that is that should be on the Wicklow kind of whatever trail, the house where Taffin was shot.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because there used to be signs, for Excalibur and all that on the way in.
Yeah.
Remember there was the blue or the brown signs.
That's right. Yeah. Well, Excalibur, I suppose.
Well, that was
possibly
pushing
rightly,
it a bit.
the film board don't want to draw too much attention to Taffin. It's the wrong kind of classic that they don't want people to necessarily celebrate. But right up there in that house with the blue door, good old Pierce Brosnan and Alison Doody made sweet, passionate love, badly lit, but passionate love in the great Taffin. I'm here now because No WiFi. I became aware of No WiFi about a year ago. I'm amazed how prolific you guys are. I mean, how many films are you? How many shorts are you making a year? 3, 4, it seems, or
no, an awful lot more. Well,
wow.
what you're going to see in the Whale on the 20th is a selection of what we did in 2017. Right. So in total, there's probably over 20 projects.
Wow!
But yeah, and they were driven by different objectives. Some of them were a challenge to submit to a festival where you had to put in a 1-minute film. So we may have done 6 of those.
Right.
So you'll probably get to see 2 of those. Some of the other ones were just ideas. We're blessed actually. We have a great group of writers on board. So that's people post up a script and say, "This is what I'm thinking of doing. Who's on board?" And someone will say, "Yeah, I can do camera for that." Someone else, "I know 2 locations. I'd like to play the part of Mrs. Murphy's mother," and so on. And within a few weeks, we just hit the ground and get it up and running.
Well, it's a perfect idea, the sort of collective notion that you can basically share ideas, and then people, obviously can respond immediately to the material, or they find what suits them or what they feel is right for them. How did that happen? Because I don't know many, within Irish film industry. I can't think of many.
Yeah, it's quite a unique concept. I mean, it was like the right place at the right time, and it all started with a post on a group in a forum in Bray, where this guy, an actor, Brian Matthews Murphy, said, "I'd like to form a group with actors and filmmakers. Who's on board?" Few people responded. Page was set up. My name was added in by a friend that I worked with on Vikings. We had our first meeting the end of September 2016. So there's no formal structure. We don't have a chairman or a treasurer, or constitution, any of that. We meet every fortnight. Meeting lasts an hour. And to the Facebook group, that's how projects get up and running.
So it's not a rehab thing, no. I thought it was rehab. I saw a few of the people involved. I assumed it was some sort of. I suppose all good art is rehab in some way. It is basically an escape and a way to deal with.
Well, people probably have all those on board too. Yeah, but you don't have to fill an application form and say why you're there. So a
lot of people signing with an X, I think, is a general rule in that situation.
Everybody's a reform something or other, I suppose.
Well,
or on their way to recovery.
That's the hope in life, that you can get reform in some way, shape, or form. Now, when it comes to the actual films themselves, you've won quite a few awards too, which is very kind of reflective of the fact that these are quality, these are good films.
Yeah, we've got several nominations. Well, let me think now. There's various festivals. Normally, when you make your own short films, the easiest way to get people to see them is at film festivals. They don't get released into cinemas, except The Whale. And The Mermaid in Bray, by the way, I have to mention them.
Yeah, they're great.
But in terms of film festivals, I mean, there was one project, for instance, we did for a poet called David Butler, one of our writers, and it was a thing called the Black Rock Sequence. So he had 12 poems, sort of from Booterstown all the way out to Dalkey, more or less along the Dart line. So we filmed each one of those, narrated them, and that ended up in a festival in Bangalore, for instance.
Wow.
We have 2 films pending in different short film festivals in Los Angeles. There's our big breakthrough was last March. There's a festival called March on Film, and in 2016 it was set up. So you apply in January, February, and on the 1st of March they give you a title, they give you a character's name and a prop and a line of dialogue, and you've 1 month to shoot, edit and submit this. So in 2017 we got 2 of our films, The Debt and The Confessional, into the final 10, and The Confessional won Best Screenplay for Conor Waldron. So that was a bit of a boost.
And we should mention, of course, for those living around here, quite a lot of your work is shot around these parts too. The hotspots are quite a regular feature, and just that idea that you've got, I don't know, it just seems like an endless amount of possibilities. I know it's possibly a little bit difficult to approach sci-fi around here, but it seems like there's a I don't know whether you guys have like a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. It just seems this is so kind of healthy and productive.
Yeah.
I don't know if the internet kind of influences what you might do in the future, because that seems to be an avenue that everybody's got access to, obviously, and it sort of gives you a big
it's all
audience.
of those. And actually, now that you mentioned sci-fi, one of the competitions we entered into was a thing called the Colchester 60-hour challenge. So you have 60 hours to shoot, edit, and submit. And some of the guys went out up into the Glen of the Downs nearby and did a little sci-fi short called Percentage, which you'll see.
Right.
So warts and all, because it's a 60-hour turnaround.
Yeah.
So that actually there's plans also for a couple of others in that vein. We're working on a project called The Bunker. We actually had access to a 360-degree camera on loan from Google, and we shot a scene in a venue in town. I can't say where, but that will continue into later in 2018.
Wow.
So there's lots of things in the pipeline. As you said, about platforms are changing all the time. So you have YouTube, you have Vimeo.
Yeah.
On the bigger scale, with Netflix and Apple are doing their own content. So they're major film studios are not the be all and end all.
Sure.
And you'll find with even YouTube, a lot of people can actually make a living from putting content on that, whether it's usually comedy.
Yeah.
But technology really has helped us get going, because years ago you couldn't afford the cameras. You had to buy film. Nowadays, the biggest end of the whole film process is in the post-production.
Sure.
So the same editing type programs that professional filmmakers, shall we say, full-time filmmakers use, they're available. You can do it on your Apple Mac. So having access to all of that makes everything doable.
I should ask now, what sort of numbers are we dealing with in regard to does it sort of shift like the sands, that you get new members in and people move on to other things, or what sort of numbers are in No WiFi?
Well, there's a core group, probably start out about a dozen of us.
Right.
It's probably about 30, and there's a sort of a wider group on the periphery of people who want to get involved. Some may have just been in one project. There's people who are trying to make a living working with independent companies themselves, and they've seen some of our work and they say, listen, I'll be up for doing something, but it just doesn't fit in with what I'm doing at the moment.
Right.
And again, like the social media thing, we do have a very large closed Facebook group, but a lot of those people would not necessarily be active. They're just there, but it's a way of letting people who are in the kind of that area of interest, letting them know what's going on. I've no doubt it will get bigger. I mean, effectively what you're seeing on the Whale on the 20th is 1 year's work, and I'd say it's probably the most productive independent film group in Ireland. And from that, I'm sure we'll get more people, and through yourself and other various interviews, we're going to kind of spread it out there and grow it organically. But we don't want a big, massive, cumbersome kind of administrative structure.
Right.
We kind of work almost like little cells. We just go off, do little projects within the umbrella group of No WiFi.
Yeah.
That works perfectly for us, and we'll keep it going that way.
And who looks after all the millions that you're making? Is that just split evenly, or is there a
Well, it's just resting in my account at the moment.
So we have as I say, the Whale, the 20th. It'll be a great showcase for the fact that there are so many. I think everybody's got some degree of art in them, and the idea that there's some, like the young Lennon lad in Dalgany, who have a huge amount of art in them. It must be incredibly rewarding just to be on a set and realise, oh, you got something today. Or, I mean, do you go so far as group hugs, or is it just the satisfaction of knowing that
high fives and hugs? All those are optional, compulsory in some cases. The great thing about film, is that you really don't know how it's going to look until the whole thing is polished, edited, etc.
Right.
So sometimes that's really where the satisfaction comes.
And I'm just thinking, from your point of view now, have you turned your back completely on porn, or I heard you still do some stunt work, but you don't want to be seen, obviously, because you're a serious actor now. But have you turned your back completely on the porn industry now?
Oh God, no.
No.
Emails come in every day.
Okay, that works.